Did you want to?
To kick off? Sure.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Julie.
Mhm. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Julie Enloe. I'm the one-stop operator for South Central Wisconsin. And we have a webinar that's full of lots of good, useful tools for you. There's an app for that, and it is all about different kinds of apps that we use for social services in our state. Our first presenter is actually going to be Gwen Hannes, who I work with over at the Dane County Department of Human Services, and she's going to talk to you about the MyACCESS app. What I'd like to do is also let you know that Mark Jochem is my co-facilitator today. And so he's going to be checking our questions and answers. And we're going to save all of that until the end of the recording, just to make sure that we have a chance for you to learn all the information, and then we'll take questions at the end. So if you do have questions for any of our panelists today, please go ahead and put that in there. All right, Gwen, we're going to hand it off to you.
Great, thanks, Julie. Hello, everyone. I am going to share my screen. And there we go. Can everybody see that and hear me?
Yeah, looks good.
Great, sounds good. And I've got two different monitors, so I apologize that I'm not actually looking at the screen. So MyACCESS mobile app is an app that is designed to help people manage their benefits. So that includes Medicaid, Badger Care, Food Share, and Wisconsin Shares Child Care. People can also go on Access on the web and manage their accounts with the same information. So I'm going to go through this. We also have some really deeper instructions for how to do things on the app. I'm going to show that to folks, but I'll send it out so that we don't need to go through all of the instructions on that. So here we go. What is MyACCESS? It's basically a tool to manage personal benefits, like I said, in Medicaid, Badger Care, Food Share, which is the new name for food stamps, if people remember that name. And Wisconsin Shares is the child care subsidy that working parents can get. It eliminates the need for folks to go in person to the job center for most things. So that's still a benefit that's available to people, but this gives them the choice to kind of manage things themselves. They can do it on any phone, so an Apple or an Android. They can download the app on either. What can you do on MyACCESS? You can check your benefits. So if you've applied for healthcare, for example, you can check the status of your enrollment. Has your application been completed? You can check your HMO enrollment. So if you chose group health, are you enrolled in group health now? And you can check your food share balances and transactions. So if you want to check how much money you have on your food share card before you go to the store, you can go in the app and check that out. You can view your digital healthcare card. So if you are at a medical appointment and they want to see your healthcare card, you can just pull it up on MyACCESS. You can pay your healthcare premiums. So some people have premiums, and there's a spot where you can go and just pay that premium online. You can submit documents. So assuming your phone has a photo feature, which most of them do, you can actually take a photo of a document that you need to submit, like a paycheck stub, and you can upload that, and that will satisfy verification requirements. You can find out when your renewal is due. So if most programs, you have to do a renewal once a year to see if you're still eligible for benefits. And so you can go and check the dates when those renewals are due. And you can get action alerts. So this is really important right now because there have been so many changes. I think I've got a slide on this, but basically you can set up to have your phone give you an alert when your renewal is coming due. You can have your phone give you an alert if you need to submit some documentation, that kind of thing. So, people can choose what alerts they want to see. What you can't do on MyACCESS is you can't do the actual renewal. Some people have to do what's called a 6-month reporting form or a SMRF, and you can't do that on your phone. However, you can use the same login information and do that on a computer. So you just can't do it on the mobile app. And you're not talking to a live person. There isn't a chat feature set up with this or anything. So that is the only limitation on that. Why does it matter and why is it useful now? There have been, like I said, a lot of really big changes. Basically, during the pandemic and the public health emergency, a lot of the rules for these programs were suspended. And so now that that is unwinding, those rules are coming back. And so people have to do renewals, they have to verify information that they basically got to pass on for the last couple of years. So those are pretty big changes for folks. The other thing is that some programs have work requirements. And so that means for able-bodied adults, you might have to work or participate in a work training program to continue to get your benefits. And we haven't had work requirements in Wisconsin in quite a few years. So again, that's a really big change for folks. The call centers are really, really busy right now. And so if somebody is trying to get on the phone and talk to somebody about their benefits, they could be waiting on the phone for a while. And if this is something they're able to take care of themselves, it's just going to save them a lot of frustration and time. And then empowerment, like it gives people the ability to be in charge of their own benefits. So those are some reasons. Helpful hints, just as community advocates, some things are that you can help folks with is just reminders that their contact information is really, really important right now. If we have an incorrect address or an incorrect email or phone number for somebody, they might miss really important communications. They're more likely to get it if they have the MyACCESS, because then they're signing up for alerts, hopefully. But they might not get a letter in the mail that explains what their work requirement is. And so we really are trying to encourage everybody, like, make sure at the very least your contact information is correct. Again, they can request notifications through the My App just to kind of make sure that they're not missing things. And one thing, and this gets a little complicated, but basically we do not want people to do their renewals early. And that is because generally if somebody's getting a healthcare benefit and they don't have a deductible, for example, when they do that renewal, those rules are going to start to apply to them at that point. So if they do it early, they might actually be costing themselves some money by triggering having a deductible. Food Share has some similar things. As soon as they do that renewal, those rules come back into play. So we're really encouraging people to just wait, do it on time, of course, but don't do it early. I got a bunch of resources here, and these are basically public resources. So these are designed to be user-friendly and just to give you, the frequently asked questions, the basic information of how do you find somebody to contact if you need to talk to somebody, where's your local job center, things like that. There's also some materials for outreach. So if folks are interested in printing some things off and being able to hand those out, these are really nice materials. And we hand those out at the job center too, to give people that. And then there are a series of demonstration videos for anybody who wants to dive deeper into how Access and MyACCESS works. Most of them are fairly short, like 2 minutes to 7 or 8 minutes. And though, there's a video for like every single thing you can do. So if anybody's interested, those just walk you through the different processes. And of course, I'll share these resources with everyone. And I said that I would show you this. So this is the state's PowerPoint, and it's got really a lot of details in it. So the nice thing about it is that it shows you what the app looks like. Let me see if there's just anything I want to point out in this. So this talks again about what you can do on the app and what programs you can look at. And it's got some tips about like how to search and find the app. But really, you can go to your Play Store or the equivalent and download that. So on the right side here, the MyACCESS with the blue, this is what the screens look like. So this is what's going to show up on your phone, and it's very user friendly. This is the menu, basically, to show you what different things people can do on the app. And it does have a contact spot. And when I send you the slides also have the same phone number. But if people need technical help with the app, they can call and get technical help. If they need help with their benefits, then they're going to want to call their local office. And this will help people find that number as well. One thing, it's when you're accessing your account for the first time, you need to know either your case number, which shows up on letters that people get in the mail, their date of birth, and they need to use either a social security number, a TIN, or they can use a PIN number that the benefit offices use. The PIN number does not show up on their notices, so that's something that they would have to call and request that number. So it's a lot easier to use the social security number, but if people don't want to do that, they have the option. This just shows if you forget your password, it talks you through how to get that reset up. And then, it shows you the steps for going through to submit documents. So, again, for benefit eligibility, there are certain things that people have to verify. It could be residency, it could be income, it could be something about child support. It depends on which benefits they're getting. But this talks you through what you can submit and how to submit it on your mobile app. And a few more steps. And this PowerPoint also has little tips. So, some of those are useful, but like this tip says, it can take 10 days to process your document. So that's just kind of giving people a reminder that, it's not an immediate result. So that they're not getting hopefully anxious about waiting for that. And then if you have a lot to submit, there's a few extra steps to that. And then you can track the status. So, it could take 10 days for a document to be processed, but this is going to let you know where it's at. Okay, it's been received. Okay, it's being processed. Now it's done and it's been applied to your benefits. And then you can go and look and see if your benefits changed at all. This tells you how to get that digital health card. And then the last thing up here is how to update your address. So those are the main things with that. And I think that's the end of my presentation for now, Julie.
Terrific. Yeah, I think what's lovely about the MyACCESS app is as we've seen people start to utilize it, they actually know exactly how much they're receiving for food share or when their reviews are up. And like you said, if they need to, send in documents, doing that right on their phone and taking a picture of it is really great. So again, thanks for sharing that with us today. We really appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great rest of your vacation.
Thank you, Julie.
If you could just hold on until the end, we'll do questions and answers then. Okay,
Yeah.
terrific. Thanks, Gwen.
Yep.
Next up, we have Alberto Prado, who is here from Lift, Wisconsin, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the legal tune-up toolkit. And again, he's got a PowerPoint to share with us, and he's going to go over some of the changes that have just been added. So Alberto, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Julie. And thank you, Gwen, for that wonderful information. Hi, everyone. My name is Alberto Prado. I work with Lift Wisconsin. I'm the outreach coordinator, and I do a lot of presentations like this, but we also do a lot more in-depth training with social workers, librarians, nurses, other paralegals, and a lot of students in tech colleges. So I'm going to go over the legal tune-up tool and what it can do and kind of show you a live demonstration of it in itself. I think it's a lot easier to see it, at least from my point of view. And then I'm going to tell you what the legal tune-up tool can do and what it does and how it can help the patrons that you work with. So again, my name is Alberto. The legal tune-up tool, you do not need to download it. It is a mobile website. It is free to use. You can use it on the iPad, computer, laptop, cell phone, Android, anything that has internet access. It is in the nation. It is one of a kind. It's the only one that does this. This is just one of our cool billboards that we have. These are all over Madison. But they're also in Jefferson and in Racine County as well. So what exactly is the legal tune-up tool? The legal tune-up tool, we have access through it that we can access public data. So this public data is data that landlords use, data that employers use, and a lot of times lending and housing. These databases are CCAP, which a lot of folks are aware of. The WORKS is the Wisconsin Online Record System database. This is where all where all background checks live. So if you're looking for new housing, your landlord is more than likely looking at your background on this as well as the Department of Transportation's reinstatement site. And then I'll talk about our new modules that are going to be releasing by the end of the year with the child support arrears and consumer debt. With CCAP, the legal tune-up tool can check criminal records and eviction records to deem if they're eligible to be removed from CCAP. I'm going to show you the demo, and then folks can still see my screen.
Yes, looks good.
Thank you. So this is our legal tune-up tool. You can join along, check your own information on your phone or on your computer. Feel free to do so. This is completely available in Spanish as well. This is for all Wisconsin residents. So this is a sample person. This does have to match their Wisconsin driver's license. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward on the information someone needs. And so this is looking through the DOT's reinstatement site and CCAP and the Wisconsin Online Record System as well. Now this will be your dashboard, your homepage, and if someone has any records to be addressed, it'll say take action. For this one, I'm showing a failure to pay. Now with driver's licenses in Wisconsin, 298,680 people lost their driver's licenses in 2022. through revocations or suspensions. The number one reason of those is unpaid fines or failure to pay a court fine. It was 141,044 instances that this was given, roughly 48% of all the reasons why someone lost their license. With the legal tune-up tool, what we can do is it already searched the Department of Transportation's reinstatement site by looking at your driver's license, and this gives you the overview of what to do to reinstate that driver's license. This person can find out when their suspension ends, which is next year. They can see which court they owe the money to with the Milwaukee County Circuit Court. Not in Wisconsin, all 72 counties don't have an online system, specifically a lot of municipal courts. But we have all of those kind of uploaded onto here. And if someone needs to call, pick up the phone, we have that number for that person. They can, if the test, this will show their CCAP number, and they can call and ask about that fine. Now, a lot of the times the people that we work with cannot afford to pay these fines. That's often a big barrier for the people that we work with. The idea is with the legal tune-up tool, they can navigate and have access to their own data and just get that agency back of understanding what is in their public databases. Sometimes CCAP itself is overwhelming. By taking care of fines with this driver's license issue, someone can pay the fine, they can wait out the suspension, request payment plans, or request the community service portion, or reopen the case. With that, we help a lot of people request payment plans with these. The nice part is as soon as someone enters a payment plan, that suspension gets lifted as long as they don't default on that payment. They do have to submit a formal motion with the court that issued that suspension. But for this example, our lift test person, this person can't get their license until they take care of their fines until February of next year. That's still quite a long way away from now. People have to get to school, with school getting back together, sports, doctor's appointments, people need to drive. So they can, if they do enter that payment plan, as soon as the judge approves it, that gets lifted with the DOT as long as they don't default on that. And so it tells them what they kind of need to do, their general steps. After they've taken care of their fines, they can confirm that their license has been reinstated. Lyft Wisconsin also has a $60 reinstatement fee fund. We're able to pay for folks' reinstatement fees once they're ready. This does not qualify for the reinstatement of a DUI or an OWI. Those are a little bit different and they are quite a bit more expensive. Now I'm going to show you a quick demo if someone were to have criminal and eviction records that are eligible to be removed. Hopefully this loads sometime before the next presentation is ready. Okay, I'm going to try the new browser. It's not. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then quit Firefox and re-enter it.
Sounds good. While you're doing that, I just think it's really, really important, and it's a great tool for people to use, especially if they have some of those issues that I was talking about. So again, finding a way for people to know exactly what their fines are, how much they are, if they need to make payments, looking for records, I think is really exciting and a very helpful tool.
Thank you, Julie. I think I got it
Sure.
now.
Okay, sounds good.
So this is where if someone does have eligible eviction or criminal records that they can remove, they can take action. The nice part about this one is it autofills the motion that someone needs to set into the court. It's free to use. All this is free to use. No one gets charged for that. We incur the cost for anything that does. But this will confirm any addresses that this person lived at. We're just going to put yes for the sake of time. And then it tells you that these are the eviction records that can be removed off of CCAP. So then you get a green light or yellow, then someone can come back in for another tune-up in 14 months and check if that can be removed. So they'll complete the motion. We can mail that in for them. And then the other process, on the other hand, they'll get that notification. I'm just gonna add this just so folks can see that this gets auto-filled into the motions that oftentimes are very confusing to fill out, unsure what to put in. I'm not an attorney, but oftentimes it's that gray area of what is legal advice and what is not legal advice. And, you know, hey, go fill out this paperwork kind of thing. Well, the tool is doing it for them. So then we'll review them. It's already filled with that information that we put in with that name that we signed in with. We'll look and we'll just sign away. And then we can mail them in for them, or if folks want to mail them in on their own, they'll get this and they'll be able to PDF form or print it out. And then we tell them who they need to mail this. This would change if it's in a different county, but then that'll, for all 72 counties where it is eligible, someone can send that for them. On our end, if someone were to get this, we would send them in for them. And then it usually takes 2 to 4 weeks to hear back from that department. The same thing with criminal records, just the same idea, just there's the civil criminal records. We're just going to hit yes for the sake of time. And then good news, some of these records can be removed off of CCAP. Again, this person can come back in 10 months to do another tune-up. These are already auto-filled. And then again, folks can review their completed forms. They'll sign away. And then again, we can mail them for them. And then this tells them who they need to send those to. Generally, CCAP is supposed to remove things that are dismissed off of CCAP, but sometimes it doesn't. There's just too much information, too much data going on, and sometimes it just doesn't automate on its own. And sometimes folks have to submit this motion to remove that things off of CCAP. These are all the driver's license issues that someone might have. I'm going to talk about child support orders and debt at the end, but folks can also do employment and training here. They'll just create a quick profile that gets sent to the Employment and Training Association here in Madison, and they contact them to get them partnered up and get them ready for any apprenticeships or trainings that they have for them, as well as the Center for Patient Partnerships. They do a lot of medical debt and help people maneuver that system as well. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. The last two things that we do have, the modules that are coming are debt collection. We've learned that out of everyone that gets a debt collection notice, 80% of those people don't show up to court and then go default. And so then a debt gets entered into their name. Our goal with that module is that if someone gets a debt entered into them, that they will get a notification, and then that way they can go show up to the court date and address that as well. The child support, that one will be, you will be able to modify your child support arrears and modifications through the legal tune-up tool. You'll have to create another account through CSAWS with it, which is a child support, their own website, and you'll transfer all your files into the legal tune-up tool. The legal tune-up tool will house them and then kind of spit that back out into, these are the forms you need to fill out. It's a yes or no question most of the time. And then from there, folks will be able to modify any child support things with that. And that's all I have on my end. I try to
That's
keep
great.
it under the 15 minutes.
No, you're great. You know, the thing is, what I love about the legal tune-up tool is they are making all of these connections on the back end all the time. And for me, I'm actually an advisory board member, and it's really fun to see everything's now, you know, kind of working and attaching to all of the legal forms that they need to send in. So again, I just think it's really valuable to some of the folks that we serve. And so again, we're just really excited to have you come here today and to share that information. So again, if you could hold on till the end, we'll take questions at the end, okay? Our next panelist is Ed Wall from Dane County's UnitedWay. He's going to talk to us about 211.
Good morning.
Great to see you, Ed.
Julie.
You bet.
It took a little bit to get here. Let me go to share my screen if I can. Let's see here. Okay, can you folks see that?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's see. I want to be here. How about that?
Perfect. Thank you.
And if I bring it up in a full screen, can you see just the slide now?
Yeah, everything looks
Okay,
excellent.
great.
Thanks, Ed.
So I've spoken to this group before about 211. I'm Ed Wall. I'm the director of 211 at UnitedWay of Dane County. Today we're focusing on apps, and we're developing one that's going to be released soon. But as a quick refresher on what 211 is, I'll race through these first slides here to remind people what it is that we offer and what we can do to help folks in the community. This is a quick map, shows you where the 211 call centers are throughout the state. There's 8 of them. UnitedWay at Dane County covers all these slides down in the counties down in the red, but in actuality, we all cover the whole state, and I'll explain more about that in a minute. Folks can call us 24/7, 365. They can search our database online. They can text their zip code. And now with the new app that's coming out, it's going to be even easier than that. All of our centers in the state work on the same backbone. So no matter who you call or where you call from in the state, first question you're going to get asked is what's your zip code? And that will automatically populate all the resources within that given area. So to the caller, it's going to be invisible to them who is answering the phone on the other end. The thing that's great about 211 is we're anonymous. People who just call in and ask for help. This will automatically populate. So our folks here in Madison could get a call from Oconto County. They're going to get exactly the same information as if they were talking to somebody who was right there in that area. People think that, 211, oh, they help with finding people shelters and food, and that is correct. Housing and food and utilities are typically in our top 3. But if you look at this circle here, this is all the stuff we're really involved in. So we do everything from, we answer mental health and addiction hotlines. We help people get set up with healthcare. We help arrange transportation for folks who don't have transportation. We find homeless shelters, family shelters, food. We help people get connected, see if they can find temporary housing or get them at least on the list for supported housing. So we answer all of these different areas. As I mentioned, we answer the Wisconsin Addiction Recovery Hotline. That's a big part of what our responsibility is. We get a lot of calls on that. So the staff that are authorized to answer those calls have to go through special training and be certified before they're allowed to answer those calls. This is a slide that we put in recently that talks about, these are the three numbers that people usually know. They know 988, they know 911, and a large part know about 211. But actually, in the end, all three of these numbers can get most people to where they want to be. And you can see, what that matrix looks like. And in the end, our goal is to be part of that continuum that helps people get help. We're also heavily involved with disaster response. So every time an emergency operations center, either within our call area or at the state level spins up, the 211 center in that area also goes online. And typically we are the designated intake place for disaster information or disaster reporting on damage. So I used to run Wisconsin Emergency Management. We signed those contracts every year, knowing that if we had tornadoes in a given town, we would direct people, law enforcement on the scene would direct people, call 211. We intake that information, and then we prepare that and give it back over to the emergency management agency for presentation, typically to FEMA or to the state to secure grants or funding to help address those needs. We're really involved now with the social determinants of health. I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but basically it builds on the premise that education access, healthcare, neighborhood built environments, social and community context, and economic stability are basically the foundations for healthy families to thrive within our communities. Part of that is now with the healthcare providers, they go through an interview process with people as they come into the system. And in that, they will determine if someone is housing insecure, food insecure, they don't have clothes for their child, they need mental health help, et cetera. Once those are identified, the patient is then given a list of their needs, and typically they're referred to 211 so that we can work with them to find the resources to answer those needs to the best of our ability. One of the things about 211 is we are really the community barometer. So when families in need, and our most vulnerable families, are usually the first to feel the effects of challenging times. Government and community leaders understand that. Our president and CEO, Renee, meets every month with the county executive and with the mayor. And the questions that she's always ready for, what does the community need right now? And we're the ones to see that. Perfect example would be something like baby formula. I mean, remember when that was a shortage, we started seeing that with calls into our center before it ever hit the news. So we get a feeling from the people calling in as to what they're having trouble locating. And then we get that information out to community leaders and elected officials so that they can have it on their radar. These are just looking at some of our stats from last year. 41,176 referrals to resources for 23,904 individual callers. The reason being, a lot, if not most people, need more than one resource. So that's how you see the difference here. And that is just our call center. That's not the whole state. But we spent over 170,500 minutes talking to folks on the phone and helping them get to where they need. And it's not so simple as taking a call and then saying, okay, here's an address for a food pantry. It's working those people through, okay, what else do you need help with? And how are you making out with this? How about that? Are you able to pay your utilities? So we take them through that continuum to try and make sure that they're getting all the help that we can get them. You can see down on the bottom, housing, food, healthcare. Healthcare was higher the last year because obviously of COVID and coming out of COVID. But behavioral health and addictions also spiked. Usually utilities would be up in that top third or fourth position. But throughout COVID, we had a real heavy spike in behavioral health and addiction issues. So let's talk about the app. One of the things that we realized when we started talking about social determinants of health was that as these folks are going through the interview process with their healthcare provider, and they're told, okay, you are food insecure, you're housing insecure, whatever that insecurity is, contact 211. We looked at it and thought, that's probably where the ball is going to get dropped. Somebody's told, call this number. They start to get worried about, I don't want to share my information, I'm embarrassed, et cetera. How could we put our services in the palm of their hand right there on the spot? So we looked at an app. We had been talking about it. So it would be as simple as Stuck on the desktop of at the healthcare provider's desk is a QR code. And as they come in and they find that people are in need of resources, they say, "Do you have a phone, a smartphone? Can I see it, please?" They scan the barcode and it brings up the app. So right now, as we know, most people, even most homeless people, have got a smartphone or a personal electronic device of some kind. And for those that don't, the other rollout that we're doing right now is we're going to be deploying tablets as kiosks in locations throughout Dane County service area. That includes homeless shelters, community centers, senior centers, libraries, violence shelters, and more. So we're actually putting 3 of these units into Madison Public Libraries at their biggest stations, and they'll have either a desktop mount or a pedestal mount, as you see here, and they'll be able to walk people right onto the app. Will just be, that's the only thing that'll be running on the kiosk. They can walk them over to it, and they can work themselves through that process. So as we looked at designing an app, we really wanted this to be easy to use. So the term that we used from the beginning was, I want this to be grandma intuitive. And when they said, "What does that mean?" I said, if I were to hand this to my 86-year-old grandmother, she was still alive, and she didn't know anything about how to find things, I'd want to be able to put this app in front of her and have her get to what she needed within 4 clicks. So as you can see here, this just kind of shows you what that would look like in a process. First one, there's the app. Your first click, you open it up. Okay, either use my location, it'll geolocate you on your phone, or you enter the zip code you're in. Boom, it's going to bring up a list of all the things that are available for that you can see there. You say, okay, let's just take food, for instance. You hit food, now it comes up to food, and there's a longer list than you see there. But let's just say you hit food pantry. It's going to bring up the list of food pantries. And then finally on the right, let's just say you pick the River Food Pantry. There's all the information on it, what time it's open, what the requirements are for their use, etc. We wanted it to be that simple, because if you even try to navigate from a website, it can be challenging sometimes. People can't find the button. They're not sure which they're supposed to hit. We wanted this to be very, very intuitive. And I think that that's really what we have. So right now the app is in field testing in our area, Milwaukee, the Fox Valley, and Great Rivers, which is the whole western side of the state. And we've got our staff actually trying to pressure test this. So we want to stress test it and find out where are we running into problems, what are the issues. We expect to roll this out completely this fall. We actually just got the iPads in for the kiosks last week. We're going to be working with the recipient locations to get those provisioned and on site for them and working before we do the rollout. And then the UnitedWay is going to do a pretty big rollout announcing the program and the app, and it'll involve TV and bus wraps and all kinds of things, at least here in the Dane County area. So it should be a great tool that we're going to bring out initially with, for instance, the libraries, the homeless shelters. UnitedWay is going to donate those iPads at the beginning. iPads, if you haven't looked at them recently, have gotten pretty cheap. They're $270, and a security mount's another $150. So overall, it's a relatively short investment to be able to put that in your hands. And we heard from the libraries that they get a lot of people coming in looking for help, looking for resources, and they direct them to 211. But then they have to rely also on the fact that, just like we were worried about with the healthcare providers, are they going to walk out the door and do that? But if you can bring them to an app and show them it's anonymous, that you can just go on there and search, that's great. But there's 2 different ways that we're going to have it so you can enter the app. You can browse anonymously, as people do now when they call, or if you register, you're working with a healthcare provider, a family, or whatever, they can then create a shopping cart or a favorites list of resources that they use routinely, so that they can just bring their phone up, open up their shopping cart, pick on a resource, and it's going to tell them how far away they are. And you can even bring up the mapping feature to show you how to get there. So we wanted to have those 2 different, it's kind of a bifurcated entry, so they could browse whichever way they're more comfortable with. And we've heard from people who call in repeatedly, put yourself in that position where you're calling an absolute stranger because you can't feed yourself, your family, you don't have housing, you need some place to sleep. And at least the anonymity gives them some sense of comfort that, not everybody knows who they are or what the problem is. We want to help them maintain that if that's the way they want to, or if they're working with a provider, to help that provider then give the information back to the person, and they know that there's been a closed loop, so that they knew that they needed housing, they were referred for resources, they located a housing solution, and that loop was closed with the healthcare provider. So, and as I mentioned before, all centers work on the same database. So the app, we anticipate the app is going to go statewide. Right now, we're testing it in about 3/4 of the state, and we will look to roll it out further than that as we go forward. And with that, there's my information. My phone's on 24/7, and you can call me with anything. Was that quick enough?
You did awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And you know what I love about this, Ed, is that I love the 4 clicks, and that people can keep their favorites, like, in their own
Right.
account, which
Right.
I think is really going to be helpful for individuals. So
Do I. So do I.
that was terrific.
Well,
Okay.
let me see if I can figure out how to stop sharing so I can give you your
Okay.
screen back.
That sounds
Stop
good.
share. There we go.
Thank you. In the meantime, Mark is my co-host today, and I'm just wondering if we have anything going on in the questions section.
Yes. So we do have a couple of questions and comments. And folks can ask questions for any of our panelists. So please do add them. So one of our attendees asked, is there a monthly fee if you are registered to utilize the 211 app?
No, there's no fees at all, not to the users. We internally, we have to cover development costs and things, but that there's no cost to anybody using 211.
Okay, great, thank you. Let's see, Amy Christian said the tablet and app will be a great resource for libraries. I work at Dwight Foster Public Library in Fort Atkinson, and we have individuals that come into our library asking for information all the time on these matters. Excited for this.
Great.
That's great. She also asked, how do we get involved in the first step in the process? And I think that means setting up the tablets.
So what we're doing is this, that we've got a certain number, 15 that we're able to purchase, that we're going to be able to donate out. Right now, we're applying for a grant to be able to buy more tablets. But obviously, like any project, you've got to have a budget and what you work within. If a library or any entity wants to purchase an iPad, we're more than happy to come out and get them set up. We'll come right on site, get the thing provisioned for you, get it set up, even share with you what we're using for podium mounts and desktop mounts if you want to do that, to make sure the thing doesn't leave on you. But we'll help in any way that we can. And hopefully with the grant that we put in for, we're hoping to get be able to buy another 75 iPads that we will then distribute to different places throughout the state.
Great, thank you. Let's see. And then Minda asked, what kind of marketing outreach resources will all these tools have? Posters with QR codes that you take with you to the site, or download app, or QR for the app?
Yep. So we're gonna be creating some vinyl stickers with the 211 logo with the QR code below it, that we're going to be putting, for instance, in Madison in the bus shelters. That we're actually wrapping buses in Madison with the 211 app rollout for 6 months, which will have a big QR code on the side of it. They can scan right from the side of the road or whatever. Janesville has talked to us about, one of their elected officials said that he'd like to put those QR codes and vinyl stickers on all of their city vehicles. So we're looking to get that word out there as much as we can. We're also looking at billboards, at social media pushes, but we can only control the rollout for our area, which is the 7 counties we cover. But we're happy to share all of our marketing materials and ideas with anybody who wants to use them. And we can get the stickers and the pamphlets and things like that. We can get to anybody on that.
Awesome. And then what is the best resource for immigrants and emergency housing right now where someone answers the phone? And I think that is for 211.
It might be for me or for Alberto, but I'll just tell you, for
Right.
us, it's going to depend on where they're located. So we're going to break it by zip code and say, okay, here are the options for you. So, but it's going to entirely depend on where they are.
Great. Alberto, did you have something to add?
We don't have the service to help for like emergency housing. We usually refer folks out to, depending on the location they're at.
Great, thank you. Let's see, Susan asks, do you foresee the tablet to be available at all libraries?
We foresee the service to be available to everybody. I just can't commit to buying 1,000 iPads right now. So, you know, we're constrained by budget. This whole thing is being funded by one single donor who gave us the money to start to do the development. And also, I mean, by the time we're done, we'll be $250,000 into it. So we'll have a lot of money into it. But as far as how many iPads we can get out there, I can't tell you what that number will be yet. The first batch that we're doing is 15. But I can commit to that if libraries get an iPad that they want to set up. I mean, you could have an existing iPad there that you're not using. We can come in and help set it up for you and get you set up on the app to be able to use. And we heard from library staff who told us, you know, this isn't my area of expertise. You know, people come in, they look for help. We give them a list of whatever we can. Typically, they'll refer them to 211. They'd like to be able to say, come on over here. Let me show you. Click this button. And it's not like it's going to take a lot of training to show folks how to use the app. It's so intuitive. It's really very, very easy. So we want to make it that easy. So when they come in, you can just point them over here, take them over, hit this button and start.
Great, great. And is it, will it be available in Spanish?
So that's going to be the second iteration. So we've actually gotten requests for a few different languages, but as you can imagine, for computer developers, having to translate everything over into a different code is an enormous undertaking. Right now, it's only English.
Okay. Yep. And Amy has a comment, Ed, that is awesome to hear that if we purchase the tablet and mount that your group would come out and set it up. Awesome. This question's for Alberto. For records that legal tune-up can't remove, will there be an explanation for why?
That is actually a really good question. So with the legal tune-up tool, there is criteria that things have to meet in order to be considered removable. For criminal records and evictions, the record itself does have to be older than 2 years old. For criminal records as well, it does have to be a charge that has been dismissed. Sometimes, like in past clinics that we host, sometimes there's incorrect charge information, missing disposition information, identity theft. Sometimes folks have the same spelling of first and last name and middle name, and even the date of birth. Like a John Smith born on October 6th is pretty common. So we've helped sort those things out as well. With evictions, the criteria is again the 2 years, as well as no monetary judgment in the order, and then that the eviction was dismissed by the judge. It doesn't really say why things aren't eligible to be removed. It'll just pop up and say like, hey, this is what you can address. These are the next steps that you can do. Here's someone you can call if you need more, like a criminal attorney as well for that.
Awesome. Thank you. This question is for everybody. Can libraries get these resources stickers? I work in outreach in the community where people ask me for help when they see me.
That may be for us. So we're gonna, when I provide, like, for instance, our QR code is gonna be linked to the 211 app so that you can access the app. So it's not specific to a particular region. It'll be done by UnitedWay Dane County because we happen to have the funding right now to do that. So, but if you, depending on where you are, your 211 call center may or may not be involved in the project at this point. We anticipate it going statewide at some point, but we're being tested here, Milwaukee, Fox Valley, and the western side of the state. So if you're in that area, yeah, we can. And we're going to be sharing our marketing plan with all of the 211 centers so they can customize it to their own need.
Great, thank you. Gwen.
Oh, sure. Sorry. I was going to I see there's a few, so I was going to sort of wrap that all together.
Oh, sure.
I'm happy to share my resources, and I think the slides will be shared as well. There is a specific site for marketing materials, and those are good for statewide. But I also saw there's a question about language, and I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that. The MyACCESS app is available in Spanish. If people need other languages and they go onto the accesswisconsin.gov website, there are about 15 languages that people can select, and that will give them a resource. Pretty much any of the benefits that we offer, if somebody calls the call center and their language is not represented by an employee, we will use a translation service. So people should have full language access for any language.
Awesome. Great, thank you. And let's see, a comment and then a question. Let's see, these resources are great. Just so I understand, would we contact our service area for 211's posters for marketing to display in our library and perhaps distribute? And were those marketing tools in the PowerPoint for the MyACCESS also?
So from 211 standpoint, depending on where they are, like I said, we can give them UnitedWay at Dane County if they're in our 7-county region. But things like the QR code to download the app, that's going to be fairly universal. So that's not going to be branded with UnitedWay at Dane County.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think, like I said, there's some printable resources that we could share that are statewide. I believe there actually is a QR code on some of those. So I was trying to pull it up while people were talking, and I couldn't find the specific site, but I'm pretty sure they put a QR code on that.
Great, thank you. And we are nearing the end of our time, but we're getting thank yous for all the information. Thank you all so much for sharing this. I will hand it back over to Julie.
Yeah, again, thank you to our panelists today. Thank you to all of you for joining us today on behalf of all of our sponsors, whether that's Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, the Wisconsin Department of Workforce Development, the Workforce Development Board of South Central Wisconsin, the South Central Library System, Southeast Wisconsin Libraries, or the Wisconsin Library Workforce Connection Group. So again, thanks to everybody for joining us today. Take care.
Great.